das ist bis jetzt das Beste, was mir passiert ist, der Islam. Du dabei bleibe.
Je pense que des gens vont pas au-delà de ah, tiens, il a un t-shirt militaire et puis il fait du sport, ça doit être un djihadiste.
Shalom Allah. This is, I think, a very provocative name for the movie. And the movie is great. David, hi.
Hello, very nice to be here.
Thank you. Where and when did your movie had a premiere?
The premiere was in Locarno, in the Critics Week. That was in August 2019.
So, this is the first screening in this part of Europe?
Yes, it's my first time screening it in Eastern Europe. I was very excited because I don't have privately or also from filmmaking no connection to this part of Europe, so I was very excited today to show the movie.
So what are your impressions about how did the audience receive was it the right way? Was it the way that you expected?
Yes, it was the right way I expected. For me, it was from the first hour I was here, I felt that the Eastern Europe optic on topics which happened in the world is the same but still different. Also when we talked about Muslim society in Slovenia or the Jewish heritage in Eastern Europe or in Slovenia, it still had this, the past of the last 100 or 200 years. I feel it somehow when we talk about topics of Judaism or minorities. And this is something new for me. If I'm talking about my movie or another movie or about Judaism in Switzerland or in Germany, there are other emotions. And here I feel it very strong.
That is interesting, especially because in former Yugoslavia we lived kind of without religion, or it was not forbidden, but it was not advertised. My first idea was Nietzsche declared that God is dead. And then the people needed something else to replace God. And then we thought for a long time that the culture is going to replace God. And then, you know, Fukuyama wrote in 89, End of History, and we are all going to be liberal capitalists. But now, somehow, God is here again. And your movie is about people living in Switzerland, Swiss nationals who are turning to Islam. My question here is, do you think that this is some kind of coming back of the old traditions of the humanity, or this is just some interesting fact that you saw and that made you make this documentary?
Well, this is a huge question.
Yes.
If I would try to answer it universally, I would say that our world became a bit more complicated. Or it was always complicated in this world, but because we have so much information and the communication is so fast, I think that people need more rules sometimes. Structure in the daily life. Yeah. I'm not saying that everybody needs it. I'm saying for myself that I just need it a bit more, but a lot of people who have a crisis and feel that the world is turning too fast, they need structure. And my protagonists in the movie, they find a structure in the Islam because they pray 5 times a day. But it's a coincidence. They had a crisis and they went to Turkey, for example, and then they found the Islam. If they would have gone to another country, maybe they would have turned into Buddhism or something else. So I just think that they had a crisis and they found something very special, that they received the structure.
Your protagonists one has a nervous breakdown, the other has different type of crisis, the third guy, we don't know what is with him, but they are getting out and they are getting better and mentally better through Islam. So you're not saying, oh yeah, let's all convert to Islam, but you're very, I think, very positive towards the idea that anything that can help you in certain point in life, go for that. Or am I wrong?
I'm not. I'm just saying we have to stop judging so fast. This is what I really want to say, because I grew up as a Jew, as a religious Jew in Switzerland. And in the 90s, there was a lot of anti-Semitism in Switzerland because of the discussion about the role of Switzerland during the Second World War. And there was a pressure from the United States to give back the money.
Reparation,
yeah,
yes,
exactly.
yes. Mm-hmm.
So in that time, I had my kippah on my head. I was religious. I went on Shabbat. I went to school. And there was a time I took away my kippah because I didn't feel safe on the streets. I remember this, when I see a woman with a hijab walking on the street, I remember my time with the kippah. Or another thing is when I was younger and there was the Intifada in Israel, the first one and the second one, I felt a lot of hate from the people against Israel. And if you're talking about Israel, there is always one point to the left, and one point to the right. We know a lot about politics in Israel, so we know exactly there is no black and white. So when we talked about attacks from Muslims or attacks, terroristic attack, I also knew that there is no black and white. We have to take care that we are not judging about one religion. So this is the most important. This is very important for me, that we are not judging the people because of a religion. We have to judge people because they choose the wrong ideology. This is, I think, a big difference. So I think that we have to take care a bit when we talk about certain groups or religion, because we as Jews, we know how it is when we are put into one corner. So this is, I'm just saying that the reality is much more complicated than it is communicated in the media. You know.
You grew up as a religious Jewish person, and these people, when they were adults, they decided to convert to Islam.
I met a lot of people who converted to Islam. They just went to travel to these countries, and they fell in love in this religion. I wouldn't say that my protagonists had problems. My main protagonists, they had a crisis.
Yeah.
But and the other one, the second one, Johann, he kind of didn't find his way after school. But for example, Hiša, the third story I'm telling, she started to be interested into Islam because of the political situation in Switzerland. Switzerland had a referendum about forbidding the minarets. And it was a big discussion in Switzerland.
The new minarets,
the
new minarets.
And we just forbid it, you know, but we don't have one. We have one, but we forbid it. And with this discussion about this religion, she started to make her own research about this religion.
She's very intelligent, yeah.
She's very intelligent, she's very intelligent. She studies physics and informatics at the Harvard University in Zurich. So this is how she found the Islam. So you can't say she had problems. Of course, she had problems finding her. She was very young, and every person who is young needs to find his place in the society. If you don't feel well, if you don't maybe have a body who is maybe not so much into how the society says this is beautiful, it can be that some people find their way in another religion because they can hide their body behind something. But for example, when I went for my first time to a mosque, there were these carpets we have here on the floor. Everything was full of the carpet, and I felt so good in the mosque, and it was great. It was great. So I wouldn't say everybody has problems who's converting, but everybody has a story, and there is a reason why they are searching for another answer. The problem what the society has if somebody is changing the religion is, let's say I would change the religion, it doesn't matter. Or let's say I'm just saying, I'm changing the religion. That means I'm sending you the sign, something like I don't trust the society. I have to change something. I have to find other answers. I have problems with you. So this is why the society sometimes reacts a bit with negative feelings if somebody is converting to another religion, especially to a minority, because they're asking, what is wrong with us? Why are you leaving us? And this is what makes us a bit insecure if somebody is changing the religion, you know.
And this was the trend, I think, very much in the United States in the 60s to become Buddhist or to go to Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Now people are traveling more to Muslim countries. It's not so popular, it's not so easy to become a Muslim in, for example, France or England or Switzerland or Germany.
You mean easy, the reaction of the society?
Yes, yes, and this is very, very brave.
I know, but
yes.
I mean, it's very easy to become a Muslim, by the way. I just need to say 2 sentences and then you become a Muslim. To become a Jew, it's really difficult. So, but I mean, especially if you say France and England, it depends where you live. Because for the Muslim in Europe, England is like the Holy Land, because they have their a system where they have their own tribunals, they have their own schools, they have good food. So for them, England is a very good country to live as a Muslim, better than in France.
Yes, but what I'm saying, actually, what was my point is, you come to your Protestant parents, for example, in some town in France or in Switzerland, and then you say, "Hi, I'm going to convert to Islam," and during the dinner, you know, it's not like I'm going to start going to church on Sundays or something, you know. That is automatically connected in our subconscious.
Of course, and this is a big problem.
And that is the big problem, I think. And that is the most important thing that your movie tackles in this type of prejudice, because people, even if they want to choose, they cannot.
No. Or they choose, but they have a lot of problems with their society. I mean, Hiša, she comes from the mountains, from a little village, and her family, they know, but the rest of the village, they don't know. So she's very afraid that her family will be rejected by the village as soon as it comes out. But she made it. She's in the movie, you know. But she's very afraid that her family, who is still living in this village, will suffer that their daughter changed her religion to Islam. You know.
And I think it's very intriguing and very brave of these people that they decided, yes, we will go there, exactly there, through that door.
This is what I was interested to see how how can somebody convert to a religion which is so much in the media, and it has so many cliches about this religion. This is what I wanted to know, and what happens with these people.
Ich glaube nicht an Gott. Ich bin nicht religiös. Das zum ersten Mal zu Hause laut auszusprechen, fühlte sich an wie Verrat.
Mood board with your tefillin and kippas, and then your protagonists, or what was the comparison of the protagonists and your private religious objects?
The funny thing is that I feel Jew every day, but in the beginning, when I went out of my being a religious Jew, I was first like a convert, you know, because the converts, when they have the new religion, they are very fanatic about the new religion. It's like you decide to become a vegan, and then you are really strict about it. And then slowly, maybe sometimes you make an exception. So when I went out of being a religious Jew, I was very atheist, and I mean, I didn't do anything. You know, I ate on Yom Kippur, and I began to eat meat, and I didn't want to do anything with Jewish culture, because I thought this is just a romantic bullshit. You know? I also didn't go to Israel anymore. The funny thing is that now that I started to be interested in these Muslim people or these Muslim converts, just because I was curious. And then slowly, with the process of understanding why these people were converting to Islam, I also kind of opened myself again to the Judaism, not in a religious way, but in a spiritual way. So that means that in the last 7 years, I opened myself a bit more. I remembered being in the synagogue and especially the music came back to me. Singing some old stuff I was singing in the synagogue, and so seeing how it is as a Muslim walking in the streets, let's say, especially for the women with the hijab. I remember how it was for me walking around with the kippah, or that they have problems finding the right food, halal food, or eating some sweetness that they are not allowed. It's not halal. For me, it was not kosher to eat some stuff. So I had this cousin feeling, and so slowly I saw that what they do now, converting to Islam, I had the same thing, but just the other way around. And in the beginning, I didn't want to put it into the movie. I said, no, it's a movie about Muslim converts in Switzerland, in a country which is very critical with Islam. And then more and more people were asking about my biography, and first I said, no way, it's not a movie about a Jewish filmmaker who is doing something about Muslim converts. But then I realized that I have to put this into the movie. And because of that, I started to look for my own tefillin and for my kippah, and I found it again. And then I tried to, in the movie, I tried to show that a kippah and a hijab has some similarity. And I'm not saying it, but for me, the most sensitive thing I'm saying is a bit a provocative thing, but it's hard to say, but there is the famous sentence that the Muslims are the Jews from today. And it's hard to hear it when you hear it from the first time, except the Holocaust and the Shoah. But if you look, for example, in Switzerland 150 years ago, they forbid the Shchita. That means that you are Jews in Switzerland till today. They are not allowed to kill their meat. They have to import it from France because Shchita is forbidden. And there was no problem with Shchita in Switzerland 150 years ago, but they said, we don't want to have this culture from the Orient, from the Middle East, we don't need it. And 150 years later, they forbid minarets in Switzerland, and they say the same. We don't need this stuff from the Middle East because it's not our culture. So you can compare a bit the life of the minorities 150 years ago as the Jew as today. And I'm doing this showing that the pictures from the Nazis with the ewige Jude, comparing with this right-wing party from Switzerland, they take also the women with the burqa, and it's from the cartoon, it's exactly the same. You know.
So you said a very provocative thing, that the Muslims are the Jews of today, and I think it's food for thought. I don't think if the rabbi would agree that was with us today, the Chabad rabbi, but it was very interesting conversation post movie. White, Jewish, Western European person goes and tries to discover something that is very original, which is converting to Islam. Was there any prejudices towards you as a Jewish person? Religious, not religious, never mind. Why are you doing this? Are we a circus to you, you know?
From the Muslim side?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you 3 stories, so not every protagonist reacted the same way. The family, the main protagonist, they didn't have any problems. Also Hiša from the mountains, she didn't care because that's maybe special because they had their own issues. They were just with their own issues. With Johann, it was a bit more difficult. And of course, I told all my protagonists when I met them for the first time, I'm Jewish. For me, it doesn't matter because I'm like you, I'm a minority. This is what I'm interested in. But he was skeptical, and because he was before he was interested in the Islam, he was very active in the pro-Palestine movement. So he came from another corner. You know, first he was interested in the conflict in the Middle East, then he became interested in the Islam.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, sometimes he was saying stuff about Judaism that I was a bit, you can't say this, but or sometimes I saw, we talked about you have to see, when I was shooting with him, there was the Bataclan, Brussels.
Oh,
so
it was 2015, right?
We started then.
Yeah.
So it was really, we had a lot of discussions about that. But you have to see, at the end, I just want to understand them. You know, I want to understand. I'm not here to say your way is wrong. I just want to understand why somebody is converting to Islam. I'm not going to discuss with him about his religion, or so I accepted it. If he said something that I think you can't say that about the Judaism, I didn't start a debate about it. I just wanted to see how he thinks, you know.
Soit une vérité ou des choses que cette personne musulmane affirme.
Irgendetwas ist in uns geweckt worden. Das Gefühl.
Was hast du gesehen? Wie viel wird wieder abgeklärt? Könntest du nicht vorne eigentlich gar nichts nehmen?
The second protagonist, the husband of this woman whose first husband committed suicide, and they both decided to convert after visiting Turkey. He says at one point, I was like, maybe not verbatim, but I was like a second-grade citizen here. But what we are finding out during the course of the movie is that he was in law enforcement, he was a police officer. So we don't see Switzerland as a country that is, let's say, not giving chances to people. He got his chance, I mean, in Switzerland.
Yeah.
I don't know what is his backstory, but it's safe to say that his dream when he was a kid was to become a police officer in Switzerland. What he did, he became police officer in Switzerland.
Yeah. But when he was a policeman in Switzerland, he had no beard, he had no tattoos, and he had no piercing. And the thing is that he's saying that if you are a second generation Italian, for example, in Switzerland, because they came in the 50s, in the 60s and had a really hard time, then you had to assimilate a lot into the Swiss society to become a policeman, for example. But as soon as you are out of the range, you receive he received some problems. He's saying that, well, he's asking a question: why is it not possible that a Swiss policeman can be Muslim? Why is that not possible?
In UK, that is completely normal. Yes.
In Switzerland, there is no law saying a policeman has to be Christian, but it wasn't possible for him to stay in the police corps. Not because there is a law saying you have to go out, but just because of the pressure of his colleagues, he had to go out.
So basically, his colleagues and the attitude towards him is what dragged him out of
the police
police.
corps. Yeah, he had a big crisis after that, because it's like when your dream come true and you have your job, and suddenly you have to go out because you made on another decision. That was hard for him, yeah. And because still till today, he's looking for a new way. He's working in a hospital and had to learn this job in how to say he's working with the old people.
Yeah, palliative care.
Palliative care.
Palliative
and he
care.
does it really good. And he's touching the people. I saw that he's like not afraid of touching old and sick people. So actually, this is, I think, also a good job for him. But his goal was being a policeman, and he's missing that.
When your colleagues, the journalists from Switzerland, you live in Zurich, when they saw the movie, what were their reactions? Like people who were neither Jewish nor Muslims were just, most of us journalists are very open-minded, so we see a lot of things. in the course of one day, from gossip to Syria. So what is like the first impression of your colleagues about the movie?
Ooh, that's a difficult question, because Swiss mentality is not we are not very direct. But I think it depends if it's political journalists or if it's the film journalists. The political journalists, I would say, who saw the movie already, because it's only next week in the movies.
It goes in the theaters next week, yes.
I think they think that I'm very naive, because at the end I'm saying, and I'm taking, when I wrote the text, I knew that somehow my position that I'm taking is a naive position. If I'm saying, hey, let's not think in black and white, let's think in gray, I know that everybody can say a lot of critical stuff about it, but this comes from my heart, this is what I'm thinking. So the political journalists, I think they're a bit disappointed that I'm not made a movie about traveling to Syria, fighting for the jihad.
Well, that is what Bernardani Levy is doing, so we don't need another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But maybe when my colleagues from the radio station asked me, hey, what is your movie about? About converts, so you're going to Syria. It was always this question,
Yeah.
So this is the thing. And from the filming point, the film critics, I received very good reception. I also have people who are asking me why did I put myself into the movie. This is not so common, and but I see that they understand why the people were converting to Islam. They writing all. Now I understand why people are converting to Islam. And then some are writing, but why did the director put himself into the movie? And I know that without putting myself into the movie, my movie wouldn't have worked out, because I had to put some information into the movie with my figure, with my role. You know what I mean? Being
back to back and being comparing your life experience to their life experience. I mean, you were born into this and they decided, but also there is a decision in your life after visiting South America, right?
Exactly.
To take off kippah and to stop being religious Jews and to eat sausage, as you were saying in the streets. That part of the story, people who are not getting out of Judaism, but getting out of the Orthodox communities in Brooklyn, this is also something that the documentaries and the documentary filmmakers are treating in the past few years.
Yeah.
The vice versa thing, the people who are trying to get out, and it's very complicated to get out of classic Hasidic Orthodox community in Brooklyn, and so that is why I think it's very valuable to have these two oppositions. Yeah. You got out, they're getting in, of some higher concept.
Yeah, but what's very important is there is no being religious. It doesn't matter which religion, but being religious is always something dynamic. When I finished the shooting, I was at this point of being religious. I wasn't religious anymore. Maybe now I'm a bit more spiritual or emotional about Judaism. And you see also with the story of Hiša, she started very excited about Islam. At the end, she goes back to her roots. And so we going out, going in, the religious biography is always like that. It's like a wave. You're never at one point, It's always, sometimes you feel very connected to God, or sometimes you feel very connected to somebody else. It's always something is changing. There is no some static point where you staying where you are. And my point is, we have to use these converts, The converts who are going now to the Islam, they know how we live, right? They know how the Christian society is, for example. They know we should use them for the dialogue, as a bridge.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, when
both sides,
both sides. But in the beginning, when you are converting, you are very fanatic, but after a bit of time, they find their way. You know, they find their position. They being a bit more calm about their new religion. The important thing is that if somebody is converting to Islam, for example, we have to look that we don't put them away, you know, into the extremist corner, because then we are losing them for the dialogue. We need these converts for the dialogue between the extremists and the Christian majority, or the Jews, because the converts, they know the language from us and from them, and they have to.
They can communicate.
They can
both.
communicate.
Yes.
If we push them away, we are losing them, and then.
And that is a very valuable thing to have. The people who know those both sides. You say in the movie, and I think that was the idea of all of us, the little Jews when we were kids. I'm going to go to Israel and to work for Mossad, you know. And then the wise old man in our family said, first go to Israel, and then spend some time in Israel, and then come back, and then tell us what you really want to do. Do you really want to make Aliyah? Do you really want to go to this country? That is the fanaticism of a kid or somebody who is young, who just had his bar mitzvah, you know, and then it calms down a little bit. Then you're thinking, you know, should I do that, or is it worth it, or am I this guy? You know, so that is, I think, that proves that also you were there as a little fanatic. I will go and do that.
I was, yeah.
Yes, and then you calmed down.
Yeah.
And then you are somewhere in the middle. My experience, and I like to put always like a little personal touch in my shows, is that I don't like being segregated in synagogues. Therefore, I rarely go to synagogues. I don't like being separated from men. And when I was a kid, I also was, Jewish religion is top and everything else is came out of it. But then I realized I'm living in a Christian society, and of course I have a lot of Christian friends, Orthodox and Catholics. How come that Christian religion is so big and how it dominates the world? And men and women, they're all like brothers and sisters hugging each other, you know. I don't like not to have to think about 3 times, is this guy Chabad or Hasidic, shake his hands, or can I, you know, tap his back? If we are together, let's be together. If we are brothers and sisters, let's be brothers and sisters. So what are the plans? What is your next movie? People converting to?
Actually, this is a big topic because filmmaking is really a hard business.
I know.
And honestly, I'm just waiting because I know that it's so hard. You really have to believe in your next project. So that means I'm just waiting for a good idea.
You have to bore somebody to death with your idea, but to believe in it.
Yeah. What I know is I'm just making documentary, no fiction. And I remember when I told my father about my movie, about the converts, his reaction was, why are you not making once a funny movie? You know, I want to laugh about something. So my dream is to make a documentary film where people can laugh. You know?
For your father to laugh.
A comedy documentary. But I'm still waiting for good ideas. So if you have good ideas, you can sell.
Yes. And I'm saying goodbye to David Vogel. And it was my great pleasure to talk to him. Bye from Ljubljana, voli vas Agitpop i vidimo se uskoro. Ćao!